Guys, welcome to the Search and Seizure Show. My name is Anthony Bandiero. I'm an attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training. This is what I do for a living. I have the honor and the privilege to train cops all around the nation in making good case law. And my co-host is Mike. Mike, introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I also have that same honor and privilege to cruise around this great country and meet the cops out there and teach them some search and seizure. It's pretty fantastic.
So anyway, guys, I met Mike a few years ago, and he's a current police officer right now. That's one of the reasons I love having him on the show because, look, I retired in 2016. Things have changed. I mean, a lot. I mean, as far as like the culture goes, as far as policing goes. But the thing is, I like to be involved in this business, in this profession, because I don't want to lose touch. All right, what's up? Can you get Sean? What's up, Sean?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep. Hey, Sean.
How you doing, Mike?
Doing well. Good to hear from you.
All right, so I always got a question prepared just in case we have gun shy people that don't want to talk.
Well, and hopefully we don't have some shy people today, but it's always nice to kick it off with you, Sean, because you're a longtime listener.
Yeah, not first time caller.
Not first time caller.
Just like the love line.
Yeah,
so like the love line.
Pretty much. Yeah, we can solve those problems too.
All right, so we got a call for service. It's a third party claiming that the neighbor in the apartment building is having a domestic fight. Can tell that it's a man and a woman. The deputy gets on scene, sees a guy coming down the stairs before he gets to the appropriate apartment number, and asks them, "Hey, do you live in apartment number 7?"
Yep.
And he says yes. So the deputy says, "Hang on a minute. We've got a report that there's a call for service here and there's a problem. I need you to stay right here." And the guy says, "No, I'm leaving." And so the deputy says, "No, now you are legally being detained for my investigation."
Mm-hmm.
And so now the deputy's question to me was, at what point can I ID this person?
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him the answer, but I wanted to hear what you guys had to say.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Because you're in Iowa, what does Iowa's stop and identify statute say?
So if you remember the text I sent you, it is very vague.
Remind me.
So it talks about if we are lawfully present or in a lawful investigation, then you have to ID.
Okay. So it's standard stop and identify is fair. Okay.
Yeah.
It's vague, but a lot of them are vague.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually, do you have what do you think on this?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's even with your vagueness there, Sean, like you're saying, it sounds, the first question is going to be, is there justification to stop this guy, to come into contact with him? And based on what we've got, the domestic violence situation happening, he's coming from the apartment that it's believed to be taking place. You've got, reasonable suspicion to believe that he's involved in that crime.
Yeah. So let's go through it, right? So reasonable suspicion is obviously based on Terry versus Ohio. It requires a moderate chance of criminal activity, right? It has to be particularized, but it's not a high level of proof. It's certainly, lower than probable cause and much lower than certainty that the person has committed a crime. So let me ask you this first, Sean. Based on the facts that the officer knows at the time, is there a moderate chance that this particular person is engaged in criminal activity? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
So I agree. So the next thing is, let's talk about stop and identify. So not every state has a stop and identify statute. I want to say about half do and half don't. Okay.
That many, half.
Yeah, it's not actually. You would think that more would have it, but a big one that doesn't have it is California.
Wow.
California does not have a stop and identify. So if you get detained in California, and you're in the cops, like, what's your name and identification? They don't have to answer. Now they cannot lie.
Correct.
That's impeding an investigation, but they don't have to say anything. So when it comes to stop and identify states, which Iowa, Nevada, and several others are, then we are going to look at a case called Hybel. Hybel is Hiibel. And actually it's a case that comes out of Mike's backyard here in Nevada.
Up north a little bit.
They call it it's Winnemucca. Okay. The case occurred in Winnemucca, or they call it the Muck. Did you know that?
I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, they call it the muck. So Winnemucca is a small rural place. It's actually a pretty place. But the point is that Heibel was suspected of domestic violence. Seems kind of appropriate.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the deputy said, hey, I need to identify you per Nevada's statute for stop and identify. And Heibel was a cowboy, maybe a rancher. And he was like, I'm not, he's kind of like obstinate. I'm not going to identify myself. I didn't do anything wrong type of thing.
Because he found him near his truck and
Yeah.
like abrupt stop. And it was still some suspicious stuff going on when he came into contact with him.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the officer had the reasonable suspicion. And basically the officer's like, you need to identify yourself. I need to know who you are. And Heibel basically was very, again, obstinate. And he was like, I'm not going to identify myself. And ultimately, Heibel was arrested under the NRS for stop and identify in Nevada. And this goes all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And it was Heibel's argument that this is a couple things. Number one is that this is, it violates my Fifth Amendment. Asking me to tell you my name is a Fifth Amendment privilege, to be silent. And number two, it's an unlawful seizure because you can't just hold me up and arrest me for not identifying myself under this statute. And the U.S. Supreme Court says we're good to go. First of all, giving your name is usually, there's always exceptions, is usually not incrimination. Your name is not the evidence of the crime.
Correct.
The fact that your name is Mike Boone does not mean you are more likely to commit auto thefts, right?
Most likely.
Most
likely, yeah.
And so anyway, so the point is that's how they handle the Fifth Amendment issue. The second thing is, this is important. Okay, you ready for this, Sean?
Yep.
The important piece that Heibel, but also cases after Heibel kind of talked about is like the name that running that person has to be related to the criminal activity. In other words, what I teach is if you have a stop and identify statute, whether it's Iowa, Nevada, etc., and that name does nothing for you, it does not forward that investigation by one iota, leave it alone. Let me give you an example. So, let's say you stop me for shoplifting, and Walmart I'm not Walmart, fuck Walmart. Am I Walmart material here? Target calls you and says that Anthony was shoplifting, and I'm sorry, Anthony, this guy was shoplifting. Gives you a general description, not great description. A lot of people around. It's a busy place, but you kind of see me and you're like, I think that this guy is my shoplifter. You stop me. You say, what is your name? Identify yourself under the statute. I say, go pound sand, and I'm not doing it, and I did not shoplift. And you're like, okay, you want to play that game? And so about a minute into it, Target calls you and roundabout through dispatch, says, hey, actually, we got the guy. He's on premises. The guy you're stopped out there at the end of the parking lot, that's not him. But yet I didn't identify. What should you do with me?
Let you go.
Correct. And that's the point. But Sean, because you are a current law enforcement executive, because you're a command level, that there are cops out there that are going to take offense to this.
Yeah, I've got you on the line.
I got you on the line.
I can roll with this.
That's right. You still did not comply with the statute. I told you to identify yourself, even though right now it's not worth anything. I still want your name.
Yeah.
What I would tell that cop is let it go. Have a reason to identify, and most of the time you will.
Amanda, that's going to be an unjustified use of force, is kicking you down the road. Amanda says, kick you down the road. I think that's an unlawful use.
I don't know why she's so violent. These Kansas people, they just want to just kick people. You know what I mean? If I lived in Kansas, I probably want to kick people too.
But what's sad is that when you look at some of the YouTube videos that are opposite of what you guys are teaching, those I'm not going to.
How dare you?
The First Amendment auditor type things, and you're seeing cops still doing the same thing with the ID thing. And
that's exactly what these First Amendment auditors want. They want to know that these cops are going to get irritated by that and keep pushing, and they're just racking up the zeros.
I'll tell you what my deputy did. My deputy said, "Okay, hang on a minute, because they get a lot of training on this Fourth Amendment." He was able to knock on the door while the guy stood right there and didn't leave. And come to find out, it was just a simple argument in an apartment, which there was no domestic occurred. And
right.
Said, hey, is this your boyfriend? Yeah, that's my boyfriend. And he just turned around to the guy and said, you can go.
Yep, exactly.
And because one, there isn't a crime, so he doesn't have to ID him, but two, she's going to ID him anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, you know, and there, look, I'm going to tell you, Sean, that there are some judges out there that are going to disagree with me. They're going to say, you know what, Anthony, if an officer comes to me and this is the facts and he does not identify himself, even though we kind of learn later that it's not really helpful anymore because we dispelled the cop's suspicions. But the law says what it says, Anthony. This is good old Iowa. We don't play that game. You want to play that game? Go to Cook County. The thing is, though, what we teach, was that a good impression, by the way? Not really.
It's a little bit your Texas guy.
It's
you
too
know,
much
so,
Texas.
yeah, you gotta
Iowa,
push north just a little bit more.
yeah, it's probably some bigger
Yeah,
words.
a little more. You
Yeah,
know,
I need to be more
little
simple
more
for the Iowans.
for the Midwest.
So, and say the word pop, by the way. They love the
Yeah.
word pop.
Oh yeah, and bless your heart.
Oh, well, bless your heart's a very Southern thing. And when
Yeah,
they
sure,
say
yeah.
bless your heart, you know they're insulting you.
Oh yes.
Oh, you're such a nice,
Bless
yeah.
your little heart.
Bless your
yeah.
little heart. Well, you meant well, bless your heart.
Yeah.
It means you're an idiot. So the thing is, like, Sean, is like, I always want to win at the Supreme Court. And I can't tell an officer that, you know, if they were testifying to the Supreme Court, which you never, you know, would directly, but you're going to go to the Supreme Court and say, you know what, Your Honor, I had originally a reason to identify them, shoplifter, maybe they have a history of theft. They're not the person anymore, but I'm still going to identify them because I want it. Why? The
Yeah.
Supreme Court's going to say, what government interest is there at this point? You know, it's dissipated.
In a person that wasn't doing anything wrong.
That's right. In Heibel, it makes sense to identify him because if he has a history of violence, if there's a protective order against him, against this victim, it all makes sense. But now, if it's dissipated, so I want to tell you one more little pro tip, Sean.
Okay.
The other pro tip is that I do teach cops that try to identify them in the least intrusive means possible. And here's what I mean by this. When you look at Heibel, it says that we may demand their name. It does not say anything about demanding their date of birth. You know, and other information, right? I mean, social security number would be extreme,
Or
but
driver's license.
that's right. Now, I got to tell you though, I believe that the Supreme Court meant identity, not name. And the reason why I believe that is because ultimately they upheld Nevada statute as written. They did not make any alterations. They said this is a good law, right? And Nevada's ID statute, or stop and identify, says the word identify. It does not say the word name. But the Supreme Court, I believe, in an example of sloppy language, just said that people may be forced to give their name. And the reason I bring that up, Sean, is that there's an agency in Nevada that is being sued right now because a cop did not just accept a name. The officer also ordered that the person give a date of birth. And the reason why is because the officer ran the name only, and the name was very generic. And 19 people came back, including at least one with a warrant. And she's like, look, I don't want to just take this guy I don't know who this is, really this name, right? I can't say the name, but it's let's just say like a Johnson, okay? And then the officer says, give me your date of birth. I'm ordering you to. He gives the suspect gives the date of birth. It's not the wanted suspect. And ultimately, the person was kicked loose. He then grabbed an attorney and said, you violated Heibel. Heibel says name only. You demanded my date of birth. Is that the right answer? No.
Identify. You have to satisfactorily
Yes.
identify them.
Otherwise, it's useless. You got a guy that their parents have a cruel joke and they name their kid John Doe. And you can never identify that guy. So I think the way I teach it, Sean, is look, my name is very unique. Anthony Bandiero. Do you know what actually Bandiero is Italian? Now, do you know that it's
Really?
it's Italian for Pendejo?
Oh.
Like fucking Mike over here, believe me. He's like, that's how he's from the Midwest. That's the gullible. He's
Yeah,
like, he's from
well,
Missouri. He's like, oh, that's
Yo hablo un poquito de
Yeah.
español también.
so. Anyways, the point is like, what I teach is, look, if they give you a unique name like Anthony Bandiero, you're going to probably be able to find me. But if they give you a Mike Boone, a little tougher. So maybe you need to go to the next level. Now, if I'm driving my car, let's say my name is, Anthony Johnson. I'm driving my car and you can run my tag and it's me. Let it go.
No.
That's you identify me. Does that make sense, Sean?
Absolutely.
Hey, who else has questions on here? And Rick, do we have anybody else on deck? Sean, that's a great question. We want it, the way the show works is, all right, Anthony Smith. Hey, Anthony Smith, you're getting his date of birth. I'm telling you right now, Anthony, your ass is going to jail if you do not give me your date of birth. Thanks, Sean. And
How you doing? Can you-
what's up, Anthony?
Good. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
where are you from, by the way?
Pennsylvania.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm one of the Pennsylvania guys that calls in, and we're always the goofed up one with some of the case law,
Yeah, you guys have a little, and it's getting goofier, unfortunately. But
Oh,
unfortunately.
yeah,
Except for the gun laws. We got good gun laws.
can I tell you something? You know, I'm a big gun guy, right?
yeah.
So I tell people all the time, if I had to live in the East Coast, it certainly would be not New Jersey, because I hate New Jersey as far as their gun laws. It would be Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has great gun laws considering where they're located. So continue.
My question is about open air sniffs with canines
Yep.
and the difference, if there is, and I believe there is, when you're doing it on a vehicle versus a person. I believe the courts are more restrictive if you're running on a person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could explain the differences of that, and I have a particular scenario, what if you have a person stopped on a pedal cycle and you want to run a dog around the pedal cycle because say it has like saddlebags or something? Would the courts look at that as a sniff of a vehicle or a sniff of the person?
So are you saying that the person is on the pedal cycle
Yes,
at the
if
beach
we
sniff?
literally if we keep them on the pedal cycle and we run the dog around them.
Okay.
Hmm.
So the first thing is, okay, first the answer is that this is there's like split circuit stuff in here. Not all courts agree whether it's a search or it's a free air sniff.
On the people.
Correct.
Right.
So
Mhm.
let me I have my computer, okay? So I have, some legal databases. While I'm looking here, will you tell our audience about Cabalas?
Mhm.
And why don't you start with
I'll talk
Cabalas?
cars for a second, then I'm
Yeah.
gonna kick it back to you on that.
Yep.
So yeah, when we talk about the Illinois versus Cabalas, right? When we talk about the ability to do a free air sniff using a canine, and one of the biggest things that we're gonna look at first is, can we do it? Is it within the scope of our traffic stop? Do we have reasonable suspicion to run the dog around there? We don't want to prolong stops, and that's a different discussion there, but we have to make sure that we have the ability to do so. And the case for prolonging is US versus Rodriguez. But when we talk about Cabalas, it talks about the dog's ability to smell the air around a vehicle, and the dog is hitting on a substance or contraband that you're not allowed to legally possess anyway. So when we look at this, the dog is smelling the air outside the vehicle. So we can do it. It's not a protected area, if you will, the air around the vehicle. As long as, again, if we're lawfully positioned to do so, we have the car detained, not on curtilage, a lot of different factors that go with that. So when we get that indication of that hit from the dog, then that's going to give us our probable cause for search inside there. When you talk about the bicycle, does this thing have a motor on it?
My thought was no, just a pedal cycle, but it
Just
could
a
go either way.
simple pedaling
Say a
bicycle.
pedal cycle, but
Right.
on the roadway,
Have you
not on
seen
private
just a
property or
straight
anything.
pedaling? I feel like there's always gonna be some component to
Okay, so
a motor
okay, so let me-
capacity to it, right?
yeah, let me
Pennsylvania considers a bicycle, pedal cycle, it can be a vehicle. Like you can get a DUI on a pedal cycle.
Mhm.
Well, I don't like that part. That's
Mhm.
fucking, that's a bunch of BS, by the way. Come on. I mean, you do not like, no drunk person can have any, accelerated mobility. You got to
No.
walk everywhere drunk.
Right, yeah.
So here is my viewpoint, okay? This is tough. So California has a case that says that, and they are a pretty good state for case law
Mhm.
when it comes to search and seizure. They have a case that says a bicycle is a motor vehicle under the motor vehicle exception. Now, the one thing we want to recognize for those states, the people that are on this webinar, is that it doesn't really, it's not what your state says. It's not that, hey, we can get a DUI on a bicycle, and other states say no. It's what it's what the Fourth Amendment would say under the Carroll Doctrine.
Right, the motor vehicle.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
However, readily mobile. I mean, there could be an argument that the bicycle is readily mobile. It can get out of the jurisdiction in time.
In your planes, trains, and automobiles, that's one of the things that made me think about this. You went into
Yeah.
a lot of different things that are considered vehicles that people don't normally think of.
Yeah.
But bicycle didn't come up as one.
I don't like it. I
Yeah.
can tell you my intuition here is that ultimately I don't know if the Supreme Court would say that something that is self-propelled
Mhm.
is really what they're thinking of when they say readily mobile, right?
Because then you almost have to rely back on the exigency component to it, like
Yeah.
and the Supreme Court didn't like that.
Yeah, I
so-
agree.
Huh.
So I don't like it. I think that motor vehicles are really what they're kind of talking about. That's really, that can be moved out of jurisdiction quickly and so forth. There's no exigency requirement, but you get my point.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think that bicycles are highly regulated, which is Chambers versus Maroney. I don't like it, but California says it's good, and I do trust California case law a lot, so I could be wrong. But anyway, but the fact that you can get a DUI on bicycle is probably not the main factor. It's what the constitutionally is the expectation of privacy different for a bicycle versus a car.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so is you still there, Anthony?
Yep, yep.
But yeah.
All right. So here, so I found, I'm looking at one case. I'm trying to pull up under Westlaw, but the one thing I want to talk about before I can kind of pull this up and give you a crash, just an instant, like maybe summary. Actually, hold on.
See, Shane.
So one thing that kind of throws a monkey wrench into this, Anthony, is that Pennsylvania requires reasonable suspicion to sniff a car.
Right.
Now, okay, so that's what we're talking about here, the motor vehicle
Mhm.
exception. So do you have reasonable suspicion that this person on the bicycle is involved in narcotics? Or is this you didn't have reasonable suspicion?
For the sake of argument, let's say reasonable suspicion. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't drag a canine out.
Okay, good. And
Yeah.
also, I think that let's say we have no case law on this particular issue. Well, if Pennsylvania Supreme Court is saying that you need reasonable suspicion to run it on a mechanical object like a car, why wouldn't they at least want that for a human being? Right?
At least, right?
I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah, but I thought, and I could be mistaken, I thought I've read things where they even look a little more stricter to sniffing a person.
no,
That's why I'm
I'm
like, so
saying,
if I had the guy
yes.
on the pedal cycle, would they look at it as, okay, just reasonable suspicion because we're searching the bike that the guy happens to be on? Or do we need a lot more before we start sniffing people? And in this case, he happens to be sitting on the bicycle.
Yeah. So no, I agree. I'm just saying that, to say the least, I think you need reasonable suspicion.
Right.
But
In Pennsylvania, do you need RS to ask for consent for
public cause, and that's good to go.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So at the end of the day, for our listeners here, look, you're probably going to need reasonable suspicion to target a particular person. Hey, come here, submit to the sniff. I've seen those cases, and basically, I've seen them kind of going back and forth. But I think, generally speaking, they're not going to feel free to leave, so you need reasonable suspicion. In Pennsylvania, we need probable cause, so that's the other extreme. But the one thing else, Anthony, is that most drug dogs in this country are dual purpose. And they're patrol dogs as well as drug dogs.
Right.
And if I was the chief of a police department, I would not let a patrol dog sniff a human being. It's never worth the bite. You could pay $1 million in that case if they suffered lifelong injury. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
I wouldn't. But if it's a pure drug dog and it's like the Cocker Spaniel,
Right.
that's different.
Yeah. It'd just be merely a flesh wound.
Walk it off, big guy. Walk it off.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. Who
Thank
else
you.
has something?
What do you think, Amanda, huh?
Hold on.
We got a little weird twinsy thing going on tonight.
This wasn't even on purpose.
No.
But why don't you give your
Oh.
boy a little shout
All
out?
right. Well, since we're talking socks here,
It's what's the company called?
Boldfoot Socks. A good friend of mine owns a company. Grown in America, sewn in America. Fantastic socks.
And
Boldfoot Socks,
and can I say owned by a law enforcement officer?
owned by law
So
enforcement.
that's
officer,
why
his family.
I buy all my socks, my work socks, from this company. But that's why it's owned by a law enforcement officer, and they are fantastic socks,
It's
super high
a
quality.
Grown, sewn, the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when you make this kind of money, spend it. So you see our new hat. Look at this new swag that we got here.
Oh man.
You know, blacked out a little bit. You know, a little
Mhm.
flex fit. I wish I was like cool. You know what I mean? But because I could probably wear a hat like this. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, that's actually not bad,
that works.
dude.
I wish I had one.
I mean, you know, when I'm done with it, and then
I won't tell them where I got this shirt. but-
Yeah, we go to my closet,
Oh,
and then also look at the new swag. We got a Columbia
Man.
fleece sweater.
Nice.
Yeah, with the blue to gold on there.
I like it.
Stop complaining.
Some marketing here, huh?
All right, does anybody else have a question?
We'll
That's legit stuff right there,
let me
huh?
get so you can see it.
Hold on,
There you go.
hold on.
Oh man, there we go.
I just dropped 20 years.
I worked with a guy over when I was on the task force, and he was a special agent, but he also did a little bit of undercover work.
Yep.
And he wore a hat every day to work, and it was forward when we were at work. But
Mhm.
whenever he did UC stuff,
I know.
hat backwards, UC mode.
You know, that's the thing. Like, can I just tell you, this is a podcast here. So I actually, did I ever tell you my foolproof way to never sell drugs to an undercover cop?
No, I'm curious though.
Look at their teeth.
Yeah.
Cops have great dental usually. So if I was going to sell drugs to you, first of all, I would never sell drugs to you. Okay. Your pearly whites, I'd be like, all right, show me your mouth before I give you your ounce. And I would see no cavities. You aren't getting anything from me. All right. So let's talk about a case, my friends. And if anybody has a question, Rick, let's let us know. Okay. But we got to talk about an Eighth Circuit case where the cops got denied qualified immunity because they pulled over a car just to confirm the temporary tag was valid.
The old temporary tag.
Now, guys, I have been teaching about, and look, it ain't about me. It's just the fact that I kind of predicted this a little bit because when I was a trooper, I did this.
Oh, I could not tell you how many cars I've stopped in the past.
Right.
With just, temporary tags, right? Just to see.
So, so here's what happened. Okay. So this is a case out of Iowa, and it doesn't surprise me because Iowa cops make the worst case law. You know that. Like Sean is here because he knows that his people make bad case law. I'm only messing with Sean.
We're
So-
working on the flash, Sean.
Yeah. So this is a case out of Des Moines. So here's basic what happened. The cop saw this tag on the rear where it's supposed to be, okay? And he says I couldn't make out any writing. But it was a white piece of paper taped to the back window.
Where it should be.
Where it should be, okay? And based on the time at night and so forth, He says, you know what, I'm gonna pull it over, and guess what he said to verify it,
Just to make sure.
just to make sure. Does that sound like reasonable suspicion to you?
No, it doesn't.
So it appears that, you know, there's a chance that it's good or bad, right? And so he pulls it over, and one thing leads to another, and the guy actually ends up suing this officer. And the court found that this, based on the facts of what, you know, the allegations, that this was a blatant violation of the Constitution.
A strong word.
It is.
You
It's
know?
well, I should say a clear violation.
Yeah, but yeah, when you start looking at QI type stuff, and they
That's
throw
right, qualified
blatant or-
immunity.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to tell you, the court's right. I mean, I love this country, and I love crime control, and I also love what?
Your freedom.
I love
Mhm.
crime control and love freedom. I love the fact that, especially in Nevada, where just so, for example, like Las Vegas Metro is one of the finest organizations in the nation. I mean that with all sincerity, and they're very proactive. I love that. I love the fact that these cops are encouraged to go fight crime. That's what your community wants. But I also love the fact that the ATF can't just come in my house and go check my guns, you know, to make sure that they're, you know, federally compliant, right? I love the fact that I can't get pulled over just to make sure I have a license.
Right.
I love the fact that if I have a temporary tag on my car, that you can't just pull me over just to make sure I'm not a fraudulent, you know, criminal and so forth. So that's what's going on here. We don't stop people just to make sure that they're not criminals. We stop people because we have a facts or circumstances that there's a moderate chance they are engaged in criminal activity. So I wanted to talk about that case. The case is, by the way, the name of the case, for those people who care about it, it is Clinton versus Garrett, and it's a case from 2022. Anything?
Can I answer your show questions?
Okay.
Mm.
All right. So look, guys, we're actually here for you. We're not, you know, I want to hear from cops that have questions. Sean asked a great question. Anthony asked a great question. I was able to actually pull up the answer.
And he's got a great name.
He did a strong name.
Strong name.
Strong name. So I'm here for you guys. So what other questions do you have? All right, let's talk about this question. So I want somebody to get on the audio here and talk about it. What does Sean have? All right. So I want to talk about question number 2. So here's a question actually from Reno, Nevada.
Let me bring my glasses.
Don't worry about it, I got you. So here I can just explain it.
Alrighty.
So traffic stop,
Okay.
pretext. Okay, they're looking for other stuff.
Mhm.
No problem, as long as they keep the mission of the traffic stop. So one officer is doing the citation,
Okay.
and another canine handler is going to pull those people out of the car to do a good old-fashioned free air sniff under Caballas.
Okay.
And they don't have reasonable suspicion. And so one of the passengers does not want to leave her purse in the car.
Mm.
Can we compel her, order her to leave the purse in the car? Yes or no?
So we don't have our probable cause yet
Mm-mm.
or reasonable suspicion.
Nope.
Correct.
We're doing a good old classic Caballas.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you guys know what happened in Illinois versus Caballas, you kind of talked about it, but an Illinois state trooper was writing a ticket to Roy Caballas for traffic. And another trooper arrived on scene with his dog, ran the dog around the car while the citation was being written, and the dog alerted. And the Supreme Court said no issue. Number 1, no extension.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, sniffing a car is not a search in the Fourth Amendment because it reveals no privacy interest. Now, we did talk about sniffing a human being, definitely different.
Just more intrusive.
It's way more intrusive.
Yeah.
It's way more intrusive.
Mhm.
So what do you think the answer is on that one, though? Can we compel them, order them to leave their bag in the car?
Well, the first component here, I have a little bit concerned about a safety component that comes with people wanting to retain a bag or bring something
Mhm.
with them. So we have the ability to control that aspect
Yep.
here, you know, separate them from it there, and doing so. In this though, we're looking at this, can we force her to leave it in the car?
I mean,
Or-
I'm probably not gonna
well,
manhandle
yeah,
her,
right,
but
yeah.
basically just hopefully she complies.
Yeah, I just don't want her to have it with her.
Correct.
I'm not gonna allow that to happen, and explain to her the why behind it.
No RS,
That
Amanda.
goes a long way with that.
Yep.
I think it's probably reasonable.
Why?
Just again, like I said, that if the dog hits, the dog's gonna hit on narcotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And could there be narcotics? Would it be reasonable to think that there's narcotics inside that bag? Then yeah, it could be in there.
Well, you have no reasonable suspicion, though. You
Well-
can't say to a court that I reasonably believe
Well,
narcotics
yeah,
in
that's
that
a good
bag.
point. Yeah, that's true, because you don't have that yet.
No, you don't
There's
have
no-
that.
yeah,
You're
no arrest
hoping
on
to
that.
get
Yeah,
it.
you're hoping to get the probable cause to
Yeah.
search and the vehicle, anything, the contents in there. She's not keeping it. That's my answer there.
I agree, actually, but here's why. So I think that the cop can pretty much order her to do it. Now, are we going to really use a lot of force to make this issue? Probably not. Let's make
No.
a case law. But at the end of the day, most people will comply, and you ready for it? I think the cop can do it under de minimis.
Minimal intrusion on her.
That's right. It's minimal intrusion, and here's why I think. Go ahead.
So I'll catch up, but I think an explanation to her goes a long way. in
Oh,
this
did
one.
you mean de-escalation and just kind of report building?
Just report building. Just explain, the why we do things. Just
Yeah.
explain to her, like, well, here's what's going on here,
Yep.
and just explain to her, oh, well, okay, your person's not going anywhere. No,
Yep.
that.
Yeah, we're not gonna search your person.
Yeah, I think
that's
that
it.
settles people down a little bit.
I agree, and I totally agree
Mhm.
that cops overall do a good job talking to people, but this is a good example where just don't fight her over it. Don't
Mhm.
be like, hey, I told you. If I tell you twice, you're going to jail type stuff.
No.
Just be cool about it. Now, here's what I think. Okay, so first of all, the reason why I say de minimis is because getting her out of the car is de minimis.
Yeah.
That is Maryland versus Wilson, right? So Pennsylvania versus Mims applies to the driver. So the Supreme Court said that we can physically order passengers out of the car under the doctrine that it's so minimal. They're already seized.
Correct.
So
And don't be afraid of that, people out there.
yeah,
They're seized. right?
there are seized. The word is
Mhm.
seized, right? They're not free to leave, right? In most states, Washington and Oregon are different, but they're also crazy.
Mhm.
So they're already seized. What is the big deal if you're already seized and you're not free to leave? What is the big deal of saying, hey, instead of sitting down, stand up out here? That applies to the purse. If the getting them physically out of the car is de minimis, why is it also not de minimis to tell them to leave their purse in the car?
I don't see
I
why
know.
not. Yeah, it's a very minimal intrusion.
It's
on what they've
minimal
got going
intrusion.
on.
Do you remember did I tell you my my analogy for de minimis? What like analogy I use?
No.
I call it the spilled milk theory.
Spilled milk.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Because you're crying over spilled milk.
Not
right?
that big a deal, right?
It's not a big deal.
Mhm.
In other words, de minimis is this doctrine. And first of all, de minimis is Latin for the law cares not about small things. And so the idea about de minimis is, are you really going to go to federal court and complain about a cop telling you to leave your purse in a car when you're not even, you're going back in that car and leaving anyway?
Mhm.
It's small things. It's trivial.
I agree.
All right. Anything else? Rick, do we have anybody else on the line, the love line?
Let me try David.
David, you guys,
Let's ask him a phone. Let's see if it works.
okay.
Pushing the boundaries of technology. I like it.
David, see if it'll work. It'll probably work.
Dave's getting on here doing sirens in the background, radio traffic going on. What are you doing? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
just chasing the guy right now.
Yeah, he's probably, shots are fired
Yeah.
and we become witnesses, dragged into federal court.
Hopefully he works somewhere near a beach.
Right. Get your per diem.
Right.
All right. Rick, work on that. Let me just start talking about another scenario here. Okay. All right. So question number 3. This is, I actually don't, hey, Rick, Edgewater, we should, that's fine. All right. So I don't even try not to say the agency names. We lost David. Okay.
I think he's somehow disconnected.
And so, okay. So Tony says, How much force are you going to use to get them to exit? I can tell you that if the guy is not willing to get out of that car,
David's here.
is he ready? Is he on?
Steve is here.
Hey,
Can
David.
you guys hear me?
Hey, what's up,
Yep.
David?
How you guys doing?
Good, you?
What
Yeah,
state are you in?
Indiana.
Oh, nice. Okay, what you got, brother?
I work for a school department specifically, so I don't want to be too specific if there's a bunch of patrol guys out there, but I want to
Yep.
run something by you real quick.
Please.
I'm a canine guy at again at our schools, and I took your mini webinar on SROs recently, and it's kind of more of a policy question. There's a case. I know I don't want to put you on the spot real quick, but there's a case called Burleson versus Springfield Public Schools. It's out of the 8th Circuit.
He probably knows it.
No. Do you have the citation on that case by any chance?
Yeah, you want it?
Please.
708 F.3D
Slow down, Dave. Slow down. 708 F3 dot.
F.3D
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
1034.
Okay. Continue.
So in the last webinar that you taught, you kind of asked that, like, you kind of said posted notice is really important when you're doing, searches in schools, and that if you ask students to place bags down, it can be sensed as as a seizure.
Yep.
So in this case, it talks about, and the Supreme Court denied to hear it. So again, I'm in the 7th Circuit, and this is out of the 8th Circuit.
Yep.
But they said that instructing a kid to leave his backpack inside the classroom while the kids went out in the hall
Mhm.
was an inconsequential interference and not a
Mhm.
meaningful interference. And we do it the opposite. We have the kids place the backpack in the hall, and then the kids go back into the classroom. We do it reverse of this case.
Okay.
And we have posted notice and stuff like that. Do you see a problem with that?
No, but here's why. I'm looking at this case right now. The difference is that when I was saying, and I'm glad you're clarifying this, when I was saying that cops would probably need reasonable suspicion, it was for a particular student's backpack. It was like, hey, Andre, put your bag down. I'm going to sniff it. Because the problem there is that you're targeting a particular student, right? And the courts don't want to allow discrimination. Quite frankly, that's what this is about, by the way. It doesn't want you to be like, oh, Andre is from a bad neighborhood and Johnny is from a good neighborhood. I'm just going to go sniff Andre's backpack and don't worry about Johnny. From the brief, when I'm pulling up this case, it seems to me that they told all the kids in that school, in that classroom, to put down their backpacks. Isn't that true?
That's correct. Yeah, it was a whole classroom.
There you go. It's not targeting Andre, it's targeting the whole classroom. Now, so there's the difference there. Now, because we want to reduce, it's not really discrimination, it's actually what they call discretion. But the reason why we reduce discretion is to reduce discrimination. Does that make sense? In other words, TSA, they scan everybody because they don't want to be allowed to pick and choose who gets scanned. That can introduce discrimination. So they reduce discretion. That's what's kind of going on here. But let me just kind of
Same with your DUI checkpoint.
DUI
type things, right?
checkpoints. It's everybody, every third person, every
Right.
fifth person.
There's no.
Correct. That guy looks like a drunk. Let's pull him over. No offense.
You're saying.
Offense taken.
From left. Yours is empty.
Okay, look. So it says right here, it says that this child, it goes by CM, right, was a freshman at the high school. 2 deputies from the Greene County Sheriff's Department arrived at the school with 2 dogs to conduct brief, random searches. And now let's see. The survey, the randomness was they called it a survey. The survey was conducted in accordance with the school policy about stand-up, SOPs, and they said that and was informed that the science classroom had been chosen to be sniffed by the dog. Dude, this is good to go. This is totally in line with what I taught on that SRO class. It's
Okay,
random.
perfect.
It's random. It's not targeting a particular student. And because that's remember from the SRO class, I talked about the school that did the dice.
Yes.
They rolled dice about whose classroom is going to be sniffed or whatever, right? That's this. It's random. It's even better. It's not like it's you can do all kinds of ways, but we're good to go. It's not a particular student. It's a whole classroom. It was chosen by policy to be random. We are good to go.
That answers the question.
Yep.
If
And you're good.
if you guys, if anyone else wants to ask another question, I did have another one.
No, let's go. This is we love the live stuff. The paper stuff I'll do I'll on when I travel. So go on.
Cool. This might be a little more applicable to like patrol guys, but
Okay.
how do you guys feel about, so the whole purpose of Miranda, especially when we're talking about juveniles, is in Indiana we have to have meaningful consultation. We cannot question if a kid's in custody. That's the way it works here. How do
Yep.
you feel? I ran into sometimes when I see it like an officer, they will be questioning a kid, but they'll tell them, hey, you don't have to be here right now, and you truly don't have to answer any questions. You're free to go, which kind of is in line of Miranda a little bit. And the courts have said, at least in Indiana, I mean, the kid can't understand it because that's what the purpose of having the parent is there. So that's like they're like kind of skirting around Miranda a little bit, but
Well,
they're telling them they're free to go.
they're skirting around Miranda or this Indiana requirement because they're trying to. That's called taking the custody out of detention,
Mhm.
right? If a person is detained, but they also is arrest-like custody, well, then you're gonna need
And
Miranda.
say there's no custodial treatment though. Say there's no handcuffs. Say it truly is. I mean, it's pretty minimal, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that's a great conversation because first of all, the Indiana rules, like all these other rules, right? California, Washington, and so forth, which they love their juvenile criminals. If they're not in custody, these rules do not apply. There's no state out there that says if you even want to talk to a person, I'm sorry, a juvenile, and it's likely they can incriminate themselves, you must do X, Y, Z, right? There's no state that does that. So you're at SRO, right? And you talk to a kid in school and be like, hey, I heard you were doing something last week. What, or you were out in XYZ town, whatever. What happened over there? Oh yeah, we were burging cars. Well, if the kid's not in custody, it's coming in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say that they would bring up age as a relevant factor, though. Yes.
Age is always a relevant factor. That's a U.S.
Mhm.
Supreme Court case, but it's not a deal killer. But the thing is, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is these juvenile rules are pretty strict, right? Indiana, California is probably the strictest. And if they're not in custody, then you're doing all these things and you're hey, just so you know, you're not in trouble or you're not going to jail, you're not in custody, no handcuffs, public area, they're not in the principal's office. These are things that help take that kid out of custody, right? And
Sure.
especially, you ready for this? Especially if the kid's not arrested.
Mm.
Because if the kid is ultimately arrested, the courts kind of lean towards, hey, he's probably in custody to begin with.
Mm.
But if he says incriminating things and just ultimately walks away, it's a hard sell to say he was also in custody under Miranda. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Let's flip the fact though. Say they are a suspect. I mean, still pretty minimal. No custodial treatment at all. No handcuffs, but they are kind of a suspect. What do you think?
Well, look, the same rules because the
Mhm.
Supreme Court addressed that issue in somebody help me out here. What's the
Mm.
Supreme Court case that talked about the fact that you suspect him of a crime
Yeah,
is
your
not
your subjective thoughts aren't translated.
somebody knows that case. It's the Supreme Court case on that. Anyway, so so here's the main thing is, obviously a liberal, I'm just saying, like a liberal court will try they'll try to like make that person in custody. So they're just gonna, that's their mentality. But if you look at it objectively, as long as the cop did not convey that that person was in custody or that they were going to be arrested, then it should be irrelevant. However, I don't know where in Indiana you work, whether it's Gary, Indiana versus the other places, right? But it shouldn't legally matter. It shouldn't legally matter as long as it's not communicated. Does that make sense?
Awesome. That's perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Look, I think we're good, man. We had a great show. Unless anybody has a last minute verbal question, I'm not going to read anything else from this. Well, I'll answer these, some other time. Unless anybody has a last minute question, I can't see that.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, can this guy?
I got it here. Let's see. Thoughts on getting consent from a vehicle owner to search their car when they are not on scene. A person who is driving it denies consent to search.
Mhm.
Does the owner's consent supersede the driver?
Yes.
Uh,
Hey, can you come on the air? Can you come on the air?
You there, JD?
Speak or we move on. He's here.
What's up, JD?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm on shift right now, so I apologize if there's radio.
Hey, no
background.
problem. If you have to hang up on us, we get it, my friend.
Mhm.
What state are you in?
Texas.
Love it. Okay.
Ah.
So, Mike, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So I'm just reading off your question unless you got anything else to add to it. So the person driving the car is not the owner, not the registered owner. That sound fair?
Like a friend?
Right.
Uh,
And so
An acquaintance, yeah.
Mhm.
acquaintance, right? So yeah, you loan your car out, you're gonna accept some sort of if he does give consent, then they're good to go. But he's saying no, not my car, you can't go in there. He can give that answer. However, the owner, the actual registered owner of that vehicle, has greater authority over that vehicle. He owns it. To answer your question, yeah, he can supersede the person currently driving it for sure.
That-
As long as you can confirm that's who you're speaking with,
Yeah,
that is the true owner of the vehicle.
that's right.
I was able to do that.
Go ahead, JD.
I guess my detectives were wanting to know which case law backs that up, though, because I was trying to search for a case law in reference to this.
All right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull a case instantly for this, but we'll look. Can you write down his name and we'll pull it up from the registration for the Zoom. I will definitely get you a case. Okay.
Okay.
Just give me a second. But Mike is absolutely correct on this. The friend, the acquaintance, whoever it is, they cannot override an owner of the vehicle. They cannot say, you know what? I know the owner says you're good to go, but I'm saying no because the owner has greater authority. How could, right? It's like a child telling a parent that they can't search their room. That's really the analogy, right? And so, but one thing that Mike was alluding to was that one thing that cops want to do is make sure they're talking to the RO.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? I mean, I don't think it comes up that often,
No.
but if I was a defense attorney, I would ask it. I would say, how do you know, because it's based on what you knew at the time, right? So,
Right.
officer, you're saying you talked to the RO. What did you say to this person? How do you know this person is the registered owner? Well, they're a female. The RO is a female. Is that there's 50% of the world, the nation is female, allegedly. So how did you how'd you know, right? And how you do it, JD, is this. You say to the person, hey, you're the RO? Yes. There's a bumper sticker on the back of the car. What is that bumper sticker? There is some damage to this car. Or is there any damage to this car? Oh, there is? Where is it? And they start telling you. That's how you prove that they're the RO.
Something they would know.
They would know.
Yeah.
What address do you have on the registration?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I did a check of that as well too. Her phone number popped up in our local records. Dispatch actually called her to verify, like, hey, we have officers on scene. Can they speak to you? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. So I included all that in my report as well too, to verify that I was talking to the RO for sure.
All right, and that's good
Yeah,
because
that
you've already got some association to that, the RO's name and an associated phone number to that. So that's good example of why you believe that to be that person. So yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. I like it.
I'm just looking at I have a database here. I'm gonna have to probably do some research on this because I don't know if I have the case on hand, but give me 1 second.
Okay, cool.
So obviously you guys found something incriminating on the person driving the car, right?
Yeah, I found some meth and a pipe underneath the driver's seat. He did have a history, but he was very, very nervous. Gave me all the signs that like something was in the car. When I asked him for consent, he's like, "It's not my car," but no. It's like, all right, cool. And then when I did all this, our on-call narcotics detective was very on the fence about this being a legal way to get in the car. And I was like, well, I don't want to violate their Fourth Amendment. Like I did everything I could to make sure, and I thought this was legal. So that's why they wanted to see a Supreme Court case law or some type of case law to back up what I did, because I found drugs.
Yeah, without looking at a specific case though, I think you're good to go. Like I said, that what right would that person who's been just granted a little bit of authority to borrow the car or whatever the circumstances are to to overpower the person that has that greater authority in that. So no, I think, and then, and that quotation and showing why you spoke to the true RO, I think that's really good stuff in the report. Sean's got something, US
Yeah,
versus
Sean
Silva.
says US v. Silva.
Do you have Sean, do you have a citation? Is there a citation there? I need a citation. There's no way I'm going to be able to find that case with US versus Silva unless you give me a circuit or something. So hopefully, let me.
No, there you go. Ready?
Nope. Yep.
All right. CR period.
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
geez.
One
Oh,
of
hang on,
those?
hang on.
Yeah, it's one of those. I need the circuit on that. What is that, a circuit? So just give me the NO, number. Hold on. Go ahead. 05.
Now he said Hawaii. So 05-00503-05.
It's Hawaii.
Hawaii, so that's 9th, right?
It's 9th, yeah.
That's from 06.
And Silva. Let's see.
Yes. SILVA.
Yeah, there it is. All right, let's see. Let me do my ocular pat down to this thing.
Conducted an ocular pat down. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
You and your computer's kind of like the old Johnny Carson where you had the
Oh yeah,
the thing
mhm.
here. And here you go. Right? What do you win?
I don't know yet. This one doesn't see.
Ocular pat down.
No, I don't think this is gonna work. All right, so JD, right? Is it JD?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to do. Hold on, actually,
Yeah.
hold on. Just give me 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I know you're working. Hold on.
There you go, bro.
Where's
Nothing
that?
popping up on the cost.
You said Texas, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Love that state.
Me too.
We go down there a lot. If you next time we're down there, come find us.
Hey,
Mhm.
you're not a trooper by any chance, are you?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
So I know you're not a trooper because when you were talking, you didn't sound like you were better than us. But actually,
thanks.
Actually, I'll be in Texas in May, I think.
Where you
Brian?
teaching?
Brian?
Yeah, Brian. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be down there in May.
isn't that where Craig
Yes,
Craig
yes.
works?
I'm gonna
you
try
better-
to take Craig Myers.
Dude,
in
actually,
April.
yeah, Craig. Actually, he's gonna be teaching at Craig's agency.
Ooh.
But look, this Silva case is not going to work. I'm gonna have to do some research for you. I promise you, you will hear from me very soon.
Have me email.
Well, just because.
I know. It's easy.
Hey, can you email me? Actually, email me your information.
Yo,
Just email richard@bluetogold.com. Okay.
yeah, I got it.
But hey, I'm actually proud to say that not only is he going to be teaching, but we got a contract to teach a lot of like pretty much the whole state of Texas DPS. So
Oh.
that's really a lot of gonna be a lot of fun down there. We love Texas.
Nice. Yeah, I'm taking interdiction and narcotics. So if there's any of
Yep.
those classes y'all got, I would
Yep.
love to take those.
Yeah, absolutely. Take Craig's class. We're gonna take our
Oh,
Blue to Gold classes.
And the
so
new
forth.
book, JD, you need the new book.
That's right. Where's that book? It's
Which new
downstairs.
book?
We have an interdiction book now. So it's
Okay.
called Drugs on Wheels.
All right.
And yeah, so it's written in Texan, so it has a lot of y'alls in there. So it's really it's Texan friendly and so forth. Yeah, it's really good, man. So it's a great book. So anyway, I'll get you an
I'll check it
answer.
out.
I should have that case in here anyway, so it's good that I'll do the research. I think we're done for the night, guys. I've been teaching all day. You've been working all day, and I appreciate you guys. Who wants to show the book? So this is the book right here.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's the Bible for interdiction. I'm not aware of any book that actually is this comprehensive, and at over 500 pages, it better be. But the thing is, it's all about the checkpoints, the extend and stop, what questions, building reasonable suspicion. This is the Mac Daddy interdiction book in the country right now, and it has to be good since I put my name on it.
There you go.
All right, guys.
Cool.
Thank you very
Guys,
much.
appreciate y'all.
Man, appreciate you, brother. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, my my longtime listeners. Thank you to the 40% of you that are here for the first time.
Nice.
Hopefully, we'll see more of you guys next week. My
Mhm.
friend Mike, thank you for being a great co-host.
Thank you, everybody.
God bless you guys. Rick, we're out, and we'll talk to you guys hopefully next week.